Happy Labor Day weekend to every single one of you guys. This is a big weekend because not just did The Boys Season 2 drop early, we also got Episode 4 of Lovecraft Country a little bit early this week. It actually debuted yesterday, so if you guys didn't know that yet, go watch it, come back, and enjoy this video where we're going to have a great discussion talking this episode in full spoiler detail. This episode is called A History of Violence, and again, this is Season 1, Episode 4 of Lovecraft Country. If you guys are enjoying this show just as much as I am, make sure to leave a comment down below and let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this show. The last couple of weeks, we've had some excellent discussions down below in the comment section about this show, and in general, if this is your first time watching one of these episode recap and reviews, make sure to go up into the card above so you guys don't miss out on what my thoughts were on the last couple of episodes. Overall, I've been loving this show, and I'm sure many of you guys are as well, so keep joining us on this conversation, keep joining us for more Lovecraft discussions. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button before you guys head out today, because I got my notes ready. There's a lot to discuss in this episode, and in general, again, I'm loving this show. I love this episode. A lot of the elements of how each and every episode feels like a different adventure, but the through line is all seamlessly still connecting. And this episode nonetheless was a very heavy story episode, especially connecting to the back half of last week's episode where we see that giant thing where the elevator went. We get to see where that vault was, and we also finally get to see a little bit more magic and mischief. And this episode really felt like each episode feels like a different tone, but the tone at the same time and the thematics are all still the same. And I feel like Lovecraft Episode 4 gave me feelings of either Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom, and also had this very intense, mysterious, classic horror monster vibe, and I adored it. And I felt that throughout the whole entire episode, whether it was the way that they did the whole camera angles, especially once they started sneaking into the museum, or nonetheless, even with the musical tones throughout it. It is such a smart and brilliant show in the way that they are able to write the show, direct each thing, and actually the cast and crew in here are absolutely phenomenal. Again, I'm really loving this show. And just starting with it, we open up with Atticus, his father, who feels like he's going through the ringer. He burns up this book. We don't know what this book is about. He's reading off some weird spiritual things in there, but we do understand that this is going to come into play later on. I felt like in this scene, this was like a lot of the guilt and mourning, and I feel like there's a lot more, even from what we understand that the father knows in here, there's a lot more that he knows that we still don't understand, and I think this is going to play a key part into the rest of the season to where every single factor is going to factor into that. The tone of the show is just perfect, though, like I mentioned. I think one of my favorite things, though, in here was the way that they tied in music and really heavily put it in. We had the song, like, Bitch Better Have My Money when Christina pulled up, and they had this great discussion of Leti finding out about the money with Christina, Braithwaite, and everything going about that nature and what Christina really wants, which, shout out to, we don't talk enough about Christina. We talk a lot about the other performances, but Christina's really good in here. And one of my favorite moments in here was the subtlety of her playing hide and go seek and saying, I've never played hide and go seek. I think that goes to show that she has been trapped in her father's shadow, and I think we obviously feel that. We see that discussion in the library between Leti and Atticus and how they're kind of discussing, I think she made me a ploy to kind of be the Trojan horse to kill her father and kill all the sons of Adams. And I think we're starting to understand a little bit more that she was held back. But she's a very interesting character. But nonetheless, Journey Smollett is absolutely incredible as Leti. I think she is phenomenal. Like, last week's episode was a really big showcase for her in general and how she was as an actress. It just continues this week. It feels like it's just continuously really turning in excellent performances from every single person. I always got to shout out Smollett for what she's doing in this show. Same thing with Jonathan Majors, Courtney B. Vance, Michael Kenneth Williams, and even, of course, Abby Lee. I think they're all doing excellent jobs, and a lot of their performances are really hinged within these elements. But moving on throughout the episodes, again, the discussion in the library scene, we see Majors, his plan. He's trying to figure out what spell. I want to learn this stuff. I want to find these last 2 pages. And, it's really interesting to see, and obviously we go back to Christina, she's playing that hide and go seek. The cops pick her up, and we understand some elements within that of this cop is involved with the Sons of Adam, saying that she doesn't involve this, but they mention a time machine. Now, again, I'm reading this book right now, but I'm not in that part yet, and I'm like, there's time machines in this? This show is just awesome. Like, I love, the fantastical elements of it, but at the same time, this is developing and still touching on the horrors of race and how it was during this time period and the culture of African Americans during this time. And I love, again, what Lovecraft Country is being able to do on an entertaining scale and then at the same time as a thematical scale. And I think that's what happens when you have Misha Green and Jordan Peele behind the scenes producing this show. But alright, moving on, we have more of the thing. The whole family's coming on this road trip apparently to go rob this vault in Boston at this museum, which is just funny. I expected more of that whole thing to tie in, like this character Tree was kind of coming out of nowhere, and he was entertaining, especially when Leti had some small lines with him. It's like, Tree, we fucked in high school. I don't remember that at all. Great moment again, Smollett just doing great in there. But it was interesting to see how that was coming across, especially in that whole dynamic and those roots. And again, I was interested in where that was going to go. And we obviously see that the aunt and the daughter kind of come into a big play towards the end of this episode, where they have the atlas that Georges has and they flip the car to go somewhere else. Where's that going to go? We'll find out next week's episode, of course. But again, that's an interesting vibe of how that was all tied in, because they're like, how the hell are they already in Chicago? Well, we see how they're in Chicago. That elevator led them right back up, and again, interesting perspective to say the least. Moving through that, though, again, I really, really love the production design in this museum, and in general, the whole vault, once they finally start getting down, then the framing of the show feels, again, like that classic movie, and I felt that especially once they started going down into that museum. Love how they were able to bring that all about. Now, at the same time, I have not mentioned this yet, but Leti's sister is also playing a big part into this, too, and Blue Eyes, this person who's around Christina, is also playing a big part as well. So, throughout this episode, we see a couple different interesting factors, and of course, we're seeing how Leti's sister is, of course, going to the store, seeing that color girls are now being hired. At the same time of this element playing along, we see her at the bar playing music, and then Blue Eyes here, Christina's a little bodyguard, comes out of nowhere and starts paying for them. We knew that they were going to end up sleeping together. They do. But what does that mean for this episode? Where does that lead Blue Eyes to go? Because this is an interesting factor to see. How is he in? They wanted to get in the house. They didn't. Now he's in the house. How is that all going to play out? What is he looking for? I'm interested to see what the next episode ties that into next, and how that all plays about in the future upcoming episodes. Again, this is one of my new favorite shows, and I'm absolutely adoring each and every moment we get with this. So, of course, we get to the moment, we get down to the vault, and we get to that giant plank scene, which, again, intense as all hell. I really was fascinated with that moment, and the intensity of that scene really ramped up, especially because you see the blade and you're like, alright, we know they're gonna get past it, but then you see the plank is disappearing with magic, and you're like, oh fuck, they are screwed, and it becomes a race against the clock. And then that big thing at the beginning of what Atticus' father was talking about with the book, they start punching in the code, gets through, and that opens up a whole threshold of how they're all arguing now. And in general, that's what I really much love from this show, is the different elements and how subtle things in the beginning of the episode tie into later on in the episode or later down in the season. But of course, this booby trap, it's very intense, it moves through, and one of the things I loved was when Atticus' father threw the bag towards him, and he dropped it, and I'm like, Butterfingers, dude, Butterfingers, and I love how the father's like, you better catch me! Again, adding to that intensity as everything is moving along so fast-paced, but at the same time, never getting away from what's important about the story. One of my favorite lines throughout this whole entire thing is when Atticus' father goes, Jesse Owens ain't got shit on me! I love picking out certain lines from each and every episode, and that definitely was the line of the episode. Let me know down below, guys, what your favorite line from this episode was, because there was quite a few. I was either between this or one of the moments that Leti had with Tree. I adore it to pieces. Of course, they're walking down the vault. There's a bunch of this water flowing up. Atticus, everyone's kind of like on edge after all that elements. But of course, the elevator comes back down, and we're like, oh god, that connects right up to the house. How far have they walked? How not? What is all this magic going? There are so many interesting factors going about right now. Of course, Atticus and his father do have a very interesting heart-to-heart, especially in two scenes in particular. One in particular was with about Leti and how saying you need to apologize to your girl, and the other one was towards the end of this episode when they're having that heart-to-heart of telling him how proud of him he was, because that's kind of like a breakthrough that we've been waiting to see for quite a while when it comes down to these characters. We get to the vault arm, he pulls the arm out, he puts his arm in, and man, that just made me cringe real hard when you see the blood coming through and all that sorts of mess. The vault opens up, they go upstairs, tons of corpses everywhere. Kind of reminds me of like Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know if I was like the only one. Again, adding to that Raiders of the Ark and Temple of Doom vibes. I just love the vibes that they were going for in this episode. But they're moving through, they grab the paper, and the corpse starts reanimating, which again, creepy as all hell, turns into this weird lady who starts discussing everything going about and who she is and what's going on and what Titus was doing with her. Again, adding a different layer of magic. And again, in many shows that are introducing so many different things, the first episode really established what the show was about, and I'm glad that from the get-go it established what it was going to be about, what kind of elements were going to be in this show, especially from that opening scene, and now they're playing out through each and every episode. In fact, I was waiting to see a Cthulhu monster in that vault when they were walking over the plank. We didn't get that. Maybe down later in the season. I hope to God we do, because that's always the most interesting thing about Lovecraft is Cthulhu and all sorts of stuff like that. But in general, they take the paper, the ship starts falling apart, they get up, they get to the elevator, they go up, Leti and our boy Atticus kiss, they make up, and of course this lady starts screaming like a siren, she can't speak. He punches her right in the face, and they kind of start discussing that there's a magical spell where she's a siren now, and she cannot speak outside the vault. Which makes for an interesting thing, of course, then we get the heart-to-heart with the father and son that we really needed, that breakthrough, and of course, or the breakthrough that we think, and then of course, Montrose Freeman, slits her throat and the episode ends. Okay. Like, my jaw, like, I was like, oh, he's going up behind her, I'm like, he's gonna slit her throat, and he slit her throat. I don't know where this show's going. That's, again, what I love about the show is that I have no idea. It's one of the most unpredictable shows that I've watched in quite a while, where there are elements in the show that I can predict, but when it comes to the next episode, I can't tell you where they're going to go. And that's what makes me so excited to get to the next episode already, is because I want to see where they happen to go. This is a fascinating show. One show that has twists and turns and new elements added here and there, but all feels into the same thematical stuff. It is one of the best new shows out right now, and I'm sure many of you guys are feeling this same way. So make sure, guys, to hit that like and subscribe button before you guys head on out. Let me know if you guys read the book. Have you not? What are your favorite thoughts? What is your favorite episode so far? What are your thoughts on this episode? I hope you guys do have a safe, happy Labor Day. And of course, make sure to tune in for next week as we discuss Lovecraft Country all over again for episode 5. I love this episode. I love the vibes. I love the tone that they were going for. And again, I cannot wait to see what they do next. God, that ending. God, I gotta go rewatch the same episode again because I absolutely love this show. So thank you guys again. And of course, until next time, stay classy.